Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Crandall. We're going to start that second presentation in just a second. But before I let this go, I have to introduce Paula from Falcon National Bank. I have a couple versions here, but we're going to go with the one in front of me right now. Paula is the Deposit Sales and Development Officer at Falcon National Bank, bringing over 20 years, 20 years of experience to the banking industry with passion for helping people and businesses grow through smarter banking strategies. With a strong background in relationship building and deposit growth, she focuses on creating practical, result-driven results that meet real customer needs. Outside of her professional role, Paula is deeply involved in the St. Cloud area. She has served on the board of the Forum of Executive Women. I'll say that twice fast. Paula is deeply involved in the St. Cloud area. I did that one already. She's an active member in the Zonta of St. Cloud, and currently serves as the chair of the St. Cloud Chamber Business Development Committee. She's also on the Advancement Committee for Big Brothers and Big Sisters, a former member of St. Cloud Saratoga, a leader in giving with United Way, a member of the financial sector of EPIC, exploring potential interests and careers. Thanks for putting that there for me. Paula brings not just experience, but heart, community, commitment to everything she does. Above all, Paula's a proud mom of her 12-year-old daughter. Okay. She loves watching her daughter play intramural sports, spending time with her family, relaxing, and reading a good book. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big warm welcome to Paula Cates.
I also have a coworker, Brandon Voit. I do not have a bio for you, but Brandon's going to be with me doing this because Brandon, I don't think we're professional speakers, are we? Was that in our job description?
No, we didn't know we had to follow Matt.
I did not know this.
Speaker, so. But we're gonna do okay.
Yeah, thank you for the bio, Paula Cates. I'm in our treasury management department. I work with business deposits, products, and services to help shine a light on fraud. Get it? Okay.
Got it.
Thanks.
I'm Brandon Voit. I am a business banker with Falcon National Bank. I'm helping small and medium-sized businesses throughout central Minnesota and beyond with all of their banking needs, whether it's deposit accounts, lines of credit for working capital, or of course, good old-fashioned business loans. And we are going to be a little interactive with this one. I don't have a Lisa, but I do have Menti. So if you grab all your phones for me, I know you got them. Right up top here, you're gonna see menti.com. Pretty simple. And you're gonna see a spot to enter a code. I'll read it out loud for you. 38509056. And then you'll enter your social security number, and we are going to have a great rest of the event.
It's okay, click on the link. Click the link.
So,
with that, we are going to bring bank humor, is what we said. So
yes,
I'll do what I can
stepping
to
it up.
as much
So,
bank humor as I can. With that,
you should see this on your screens. Is it working? All right, I promised my marketing director that I would test and retest that this would not fail.
or he's out.
So, go ahead and answer that question. We got what?
What percentage of small businesses will experience fraud at some point?
All right. I don't know if I thought maybe we'd have Jeopardy music playing, but it's okay. Just a few left there. Wow. What percent of small businesses will experience fraud at some point? Well, after Matt's conversation, I think they almost got the answer. Waiting for a couple of more.
Thank you for listening and clicking on the link and putting your social security in and your account number.
Yep.
Appreciate that. We'll get back to you later.
I think it's overwhelmingly positive.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. So, yes, the answer is over 60%, right? Over 60% of businesses will experience fraud. And honestly, that's probably an underwhelming statistic as we get into the future.
And we'll talk about that.
Yep.
So it is a scary thought for many business owners. However, today we're going to help highlight what to be aware of. What to be aware of and how you as a business owner can protect yourselves. So according to the latest statistic from Experian, financial fraud against small business has increased by 70% since the start of the pandemic, costing billions of dollars annually. I'm just going to say that one more time because I know all the statistics that Matt talked about, but this one is alarming. Since 2020, fraud has increased by 70%. So as fraud tactics become more sophisticated, those digital channels continue to expand, the pressures on lenders, bankers, and small businesses continue to increase. Now this might seem obvious, but I want to point out what constitutes as fraud in business. I'm not going to teach you how to do fraud or perform fraud. I'm going to just talk about what it is and how to prevent it again. Any intentional deception or misrepresentation used to gain an unfair or unlawful advantage. So today, we will be specifically going to be reviewing bank fraud for businesses. I think it would take another 3 hours, Brandon, if we wanted to cover consumer fraud and all the other scams out there. I don't think we have another 3 hours.
Nope.
Okay, moving on. I'm going to share a few more statistics with you, and yes, they are meant to be a little unsettling. My goal isn't to scare you for the sake of it, but to help understand just how real and serious the threat of this is. It is easy to think that this won't happen to me, but the numbers tell a very different story. So the very first one is that AI-driven scams are projected to result in $40 billion in losses by 2027. The second one was that 80% of fraud events now occur on digital channels, such as online or mobile banking. And the last one was 64% of institutions plan to boost their fraud prevention investments in 2025. So great to see that financial institutions and banks are continuing to increase and boost their fraud prevention services. I do remember, Brandon, I have been doing this for a little while. I mentioned over 20 years, and so I was at a prior bank in 2005, and they brought out Positive Pay. Now, I will be talking about this later, it's a fraud prevention service, but I do remember asking the branch manager at the time, is this really a thing? Is this necessary? Do you actually think anybody will sign up for it? And he looked at me and said, not now, but in the future. And so to see what it looks like now, and I will be talking about that service, it's crazy to think of what it looks like though 20 years ago when I first started. So I think we're gonna do another live poll.
Yes. So if you would, please have your phones back on. What's the most common fraud threats small businesses face today? Is it payment fraud, cyber attacks, employee theft, invoice and billing fraud?
So far, cyber attacks are winning. C, that's true.
Yeah. Phishing with a P.
That's the Jeopardy music
Thank
you're
you.
looking
All right, just waiting for a few more. You know, I kind of thought everyone was going to pick cyber attacks.
for. I think we were ready for this.
Yeah, it's like we knew. So it's payment fraud, right?
You're
Payment
wrong. They're wrong, Brandon. It was not cyber attacks.
It was not cyber attacks. However, let's be honest, and I'm sure Matt would argue the point, cyber attacks are definitely on the rise at an alarming rate, but officially today, payment fraud is definitely the one that is the most alarming for businesses. And we go to the next one here. In most cases of business banking fraud, so your ACHs, your wires, your checks, who takes the loss? Is it the bank, the business customer, shared responsibility, or covered by insurance?
It seems like a really sad question, Brandon. It's really sad. We have to take a loss, don't we?
Yep, yeah.
Business customers winning. Oh, at the
Yeah.
bank.
And you can tell this is a themed event as we're all talking about
Brandon
cybersecurity
Voit.
and theft and things.
That's right. Not your checkbook, though.
All right, so the business customer is what, I didn't know how that would go, but it is. It's the business customer. The business customer is, in fact, on the hook for the loss unless there are practices or products put in place to be able to help prevent those losses. Now, one of the things that when we think about this business loss, as a consumer, right, it's kind of the opposite. When it's the consumer, a lot of times, well, actually all the times, the bank takes the loss. And so they have a lot more regulatory those regulations in general that protect consumers versus what the business owners have for protections.
Yep,
And I'll let Paula kind of dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's easy, possibly before, when people would think that the bank would take a loss potentially for this. They didn't realize that it was a customer. But in reality, as Brandon just mentioned, that liability does fall on the business itself. Businesses must immediately report fraud, often within 24 hours, to comply with the UCC, which is the Uniform Commercial Code, and the BSA, Bank Secrecy Act. How many do that? 24 hours. Yep, okay, so otherwise as a consumer, you're talking maybe 90, things like that. So a little bit different. So as you mentioned, Brandon, consumer protection is very different than business protection, and most individuals and business owners don't realize that until it's too late. So I would like to highlight next, what are the main types of bank fraud that we see, business banking that we experience. So the first one I'm going to talk about a little bit about is check fraud. So this involves altering or creating counterfeit checks to steal money from businesses. It often can be counterfeit checks, altered or washed checks, forged maker signatures, forged endorsements. A specific example that we've seen many. I can't even count how many we've seen. Too many, unfortunately. But in this particular instance, a nonprofit. Now, nonprofits can be targeted because a lot of the time you have a treasurer that sometimes can, and sometimes it's a small nonprofit. Nothing against them, I just want to be clear of this, but small nonprofit, maybe a treasurer that looks at their books maybe once a month, twice a month, and their board meets once a month. So in this particular instance, that treasurer had wrote out a check, and that check had cleared through. And so what happened was, as you see check 123 for $1,000, you think nothing of it, until the vendor calls you and says, hey, you're past due, when are you going to send your payment? Well, I see you cashed it. No, I didn't cash it. When in fact that check was intercepted and washed, and then it had gone through. Now this, this nonprofit hadn't caught it till over 60 days after that check had cleared. So something that we as a bank will do everything we possibly can to get their funds back, but not a fun situation when you lose thousands of dollars potentially. So in this instance, it does talk about the unfortunate part of being intercepted. The next one is wire fraud. And so wire fraud is where fraudsters impersonated trusted individuals such as executors, vendors to redirect legitimate transfers to their own accounts. A specific example of this that we've seen is when a business owner came in to wire funds to another business. We were asking some further questions and something seemed off. And they always say, go with your gut, right? And so we asked further questions. We got a couple more people involved. What had actually happened was the business owner that was sending the funds was not being scammed by the person they were sending them to. The person, the receiver, was actually being scammed. So that was a whole other level. When we talk about wire fraud, though, a lot of the time you might see this in titles, people buying and selling houses, title companies, but we do a lot of wires. It's hard because you can trust that individual that you think you're sending it to, and you think that that's whatever it's being sent. Sometimes people will just send us a wire information without it being secure. I do want to mention that, please don't do that. If it's somebody else's information, just the same. You should not be sending that without going into the bank or sending it through a secure channel.
Right, and to touch on check and wire fraud, both running rampant. From the statistic earlier, 70% increase in fraud since 2020. We absolutely see that. We can attest to that statistic with how much we've seen it grow. Check fraud is interesting. There's cameras usually, right? There's even some patterns where you might actually be able to catch the criminal. Maybe. Wire fraud, once it's gone, it's gone. It's incredibly difficult, if not at all possible, to actually get that back or catch the person who had done it. Even though the banks may ask for a lot of information and it's a little bit of work and seems like it's kind of like MFA, right? But it's for the right reason, so you don't lose thousands of dollars.
Absolutely. Another type of fraud is scams or phishing. Scammers are using deceptive emails, phone calls, or texts to trick employees into revealing sensitive information or authorizing fraudulent payments. And lastly, BEC. I tried to have Brandon come up with a different couldn't, what that acronym meant, and he couldn't. So it actually means business email compromise. Scams occur where fraudulent emails arrive asking for payments that appear to be from a trusted source, such as clients or vendors. This type of fraud is often more sophisticated and harder to detect because it resembles a legitimate request, potentially causing bigger financial losses per incident. Now, an example of this one in particular that I've seen is that a business owner received an email from what they thought was their employee, and their employee was asking for their direct deposit account number to be changed. Now that's normal, right? I change banks, I just need you to update my banking information, here's my routing and account number. Looks like it came from that individual, and so this business updated that direct deposit. Unfortunately, that employee was hacked, and so that money did not go towards that employee, and so they didn't catch it until payroll wasn't deposited into their account. Unfortunately, sad situation.
Yeah, very sad. So we're going to move on to the final poll question. If you have your phones ready again. This gives us an idea of where everyone's at. Are you currently using fraud prevention services through your bank?
It's okay if you're not.
Might be easier for the folks that actually maybe are involved in those departments, we'll say, to be able to answer this question.
So yeah, if you're actively using them, you know they exist, but you don't use them, or no, I'm not aware of anything and I don't know what to do, and that's why I'm here.
Positive pay, which we'll dive into, ACH, debit alerts, notifications. Well, this is so great to see so many people using them.
Well, you don't need us then.
Right,
We're good.
done.
We're done.
We did
We've
our
done
job.
our job.
No, that's really good. That's great. Well, I mean, those 16 they're probably customers of Falcon Bank. All right.
It's a great way to put it.
Excellent. Right. So, I think the scary part, right, is do we need these services, right? Do we need these insurances? Do we need these companies to help with these kinds of threats? And yes, and I think you can compare it to car insurance, right? It's like driving a car without insurance. I mean, if you don't have these services. And sometimes we don't like paying for insurance because you never seem to use it, but you sure are glad you have it when it happens.
Absolutely. So that's awesome to see that yes, actively using them is winning. So we're going to keep talking through what some of the services are. So how do you as a business owner prevent this from happening to you so you're not the next case study? In order to help prevent fraud from happening to you, it's important that you have the right people, the right resources, and the right tools in place to protect you. So first, I'll be speaking about what is available to you as a business owner. So the first thing is pretty simple, online banking and e-statements. My question to you is, how often are you checking your accounts? This should be done daily. Whether you're the business owner or whatever, you have somebody making sure that those transactions are correct. E-statements, again, seems really simple, but what we see a lot of the time are people still are receiving paper statements. With those paper statements, a lot of the time there will be an account number, there are transactions and balances in there. That can be intercepted through mail theft, unfortunately. So the easiest thing, and a lot of the time it's free, is to sign up for e-statements. The second one is alerts or notifications on transactions. So a lot of the time this is within online banking where you can receive an email or a text message based on, say, checks that are clearing through. Sometimes it's withdrawals or dollar amounts. Any debit card transactions, you can get those alerts and notifications to show you. If you have employees that have debit cards, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, you can have alerts of where they're doing those purchases and for how much as well. All right, the next one, I mentioned this before, positive pay.
What is it?
It's a great question.
It sounds good.
It is great. As I mentioned before, this is not something new. It became available in early the 90s. And as it's a fraud protection service that helps protect your business from check and ACH fraud by matching presented transactions against a list of issued checks. So the benefits are that it validates payee checks that clear through your accounts that are only those that were issued by that business owner. It can save you time and money, and you can manage those exceptions, including ACH.
And so with positive pay, similar to the checking fraud she mentioned from the earlier case study, this is something that's going to allow the bank to be able to reject ultimately your decision, but a way for us to be able to stop that check from going through if it doesn't match the check number, if it doesn't match the dollar amount, if it doesn't match the person who wrote the check, and then even better, payee validation. And it's as strict as if you wrote a check out to AGC Supply Incorporated, and instead a check came with just ABC Supply, it would be sent back to the owner for rejection or approval. So it's really a unique way for businesses to be able to help with their customers and make sure that checks do not get fraudulent.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, another way is to prevent fraud is to move to digital payments. That's ACH or cash management. It's the ability to send or receive payments electronically. So some examples of this are to pay vendors, offer direct deposit to your employees. You can pull payments from renters, nonprofit donations, monthly association dues. I'll go into a little bit high security checks. The checks that have additional layers of security to help deter thieves from copying or manipulating them so they cannot be duplicated. Your bank should be offering these. They can cost a little bit more money, but what we are seeing is that businesses are still writing out checks. Obviously, I'm talking about moving towards digital payments, but we see several checks clear through business accounts every single day. So if you have them, that's fine, but please have these high security checks. And then lastly, with the debit card controls. The ability to control where your employee is actually spending the money, and the limits on that card is an option most of the time.
Right, and I like to point out 2 credit cards. Right, we're a bank, so why would we be advertising for you to get credit cards? Well, it's also a reason why a lot of banks offer credit cards. So when you're thinking about those online purchases, especially those bigger purchases, if you have fraud on your debit card, right, you see that instantly in your cash flow, right, your working capital. Where if you're having something, a major purchase or something online, right, specifically, or maybe someone you haven't bought from before, and you throw your credit card out there, they're able to help shut things down immediately, and you're not noticing it in your cash flow or your working capital. You're not out that money in that moment, so you can still continue your business as usual. So it's another great option as far as a tool for you to be able to use for those other kinds of purchases.
Yep, absolutely. We also cannot stress enough that having a banker relationship is also a part of a prevention tool. Do you know who your banker is to help you through if this does happen to you, and offer solutions to prevent it from the future, or hopefully to prevent it from happening in general? So as a business owner, implementing strong financial and operational safeguards is critical to preventing fraud, ensuring accountability, and maintaining operational efficiency. So the first one I'm going to talk about is strong internal controls. Now these are all internal controls, but I'm specifically going to go into each of them. So establishing systems that separate duties and provide checks and balances, such as segregation of duties, potentially the person who approves payments isn't the one issuing them, approval hierarchies for financial decisions, regular audits, whether it's internal or external, and access controls for sensitive systems or financial data. Second one is ongoing education. I know Matt spoke about some of this, but this cannot be reiterated enough. This is extremely important. So whether it's ongoing education and training as well. So ongoing education is just keeping yourself up to date and your staff to keep improving awareness and reducing risks. Attending seminars such as this on fraud prevention, cybersecurity, compliance, and then also networking with other business owners to share best practices. I don't know if we're doing that enough. I think that's something that we can continue to say, hey, I'm doing this, what's working for you, what's not working.
Right, and it's good to make sure that the leaders and the executives are having this ongoing education, even your IT folks, right, but employee training. And it's one thing to do something with onboarding, or maybe that one test you have to take annually, but there's better ways to continue that ongoing training for them throughout the year. Matt threw out the statistic, right? They're 90% less likely to fall for that phishing scam or whatever the email might have come across. That's the importance of not just doing it in the beginning, but continuously doing it throughout the year.
Absolutely. The next one is verifying invoices and contracts. I'm going to stop here because this is one that does not get done a lot, I feel like. I could be wrong, but the businesses that I speak to are not verifying those invoices. So I was just having a conversation earlier, and it's a matter of a company calls and says, who's your rug company or who is your cleaner? And you get the rug cleaner company, the cleaner themselves, and guess what? All of a sudden you get this invoice and you pay the invoice because it's your normal company, when in fact it's not. So they had gone online, they stole that, information from that particular company. So it's just really important that you review all invoices for accuracy, whether it's double billing, fake vendors, inflated prices, and then confirming that all vendors are legitimate and approved. Next are storing checks securely or mailing checks to vendors. So keeping those physical checks in a locked access control area. If mailing, are you doing so from a secure and monitored location, not leaving them in outgoing bins unattended? And then also, I mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again, but consider switching to electronic payments with appropriate controls for better tracking and less risk.
And lastly, dual controls. Dual controls is very common and popular for nonprofits, especially. You'll see this in a lot of cases. But it's having two individuals completing certain tasks. Maybe it's initiating and approving checks or large dollar amounts, signing checks together, having dual control there, and reconciling bank accounts. And so some of this also has to do with, sure, there's the things going on outside of the business, but internal theft is still a very big threat as well. And so this also helps you prevent internal theft and having single person fraud and or errors.
Yes, and there are several other internal preventions that you can do, so we're just highlighting a few of them. If you feel like you don't have the right people, the right resources, or the right tools currently in place, it's time to take action and shine a light on fraud.
Gosh, what a great prop you brought up here.
We do have these at our booth, but you have to do something. Brandon, what do I have to do to get this really cool
All right, so
thing?
some of you already visited, so thank you. And if you haven't yet, we look forward to seeing you soon. If you can find our booth here today, it's the obvious one with the big blue tent. We have a business fraud and security checklist. And with that, we've identified the 10 things that we think are the most valuable or important that you should be able to check off with your current bank. And if not, we just encourage you to reach out to your bank and ask about those things. And not all banks are built the same. We all offer different services and products. If you find that it's not something your bank offers, call Paula, reach out to myself, anyone else in our treasury management team. We'd love to be able to sit down with you and tell you about these things that you should be using to protect yourself. And then you get entered into a drawing to win the sweet raffle prize that we have over there. And not to mention our fraud roulette. So come visit us during the open meeting time. We'd love for you to chat and get to know you a little bit more.
I think we're the only thing standing in the way of networking and food service, Brandon. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
With that, I think we'll end. Thank you so much for your time.